This world is broken. The science is outdated, the math is incomplete, and the people are so blinded by greed that they cannot see the way forward.
Wait. You're not thinking of intervening, are you?
It has to be corrected. Knowledge is not a commodity. It has been and always will be their future. Standing in the shadows is no longer an option. We have to teach them to share freely without fear of retribution.
There is too much to teach for just one person.
I know. We will have to recruit more people who think the right way. The people who have been shunned by the mainstream. People who have the passion in their heart for the science.
How do we find all of these people then?
We create an open forum to discuss ideas and build ties. We let everyone have a voice, and we never let greed dictate our path.
What do we call it then? Oh, I got it. The Fringe Think Tank.
The Fringe Think Tank it is then. Now let's give them back their destiny and open it up to the world.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds, and this is the Fringe Think Tank. It looks like I might be flying solo tonight, guys, but that's okay. Sorry for the noise in the background. I got some 3D printers running right now. I have to get some things done. But I wanted to show you guys some cool stuff first of all, and then I have a show prepared. So let's take a look real quick. This right here is my Tesla coils that I built in the last couple days. I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning building these things, and I finally finished. I think it was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I got them all wound. They're all 4-inch diameter pipes. They're 32 gauge wider and they're 12 inches long. Every single one of them should be in perfect resonance when I take that primary gold one and I turn it on. All the other ones should resonate. So all I'm going to do with the other ones is just connect the number 2 wire into the ground. That's it. Now, if it resonates properly, each one of them should turn on. Now, that's kind of seems weird, doesn't it? There's no primary going to be put on them, just a secondary coil. So what's cool about this is I did some 3D printing and I built some STL files. So here's what the glow-in-the-dark orange looks like. Take a look at that. That's after it just came in from the sun. So you can see the orange on the bottom, just looks cool. But then when I turn out the lights, it really starts to glow orange. That's under black light right there. So this thing is just awesome looking. I'm going to do a cap for the top to match. So it should be pretty awesome, man. Maybe I might just set up the room in black lights one time and just do all the glow stuff, man. And it looked really just top notch. You can see right there, it loves that black light, man. So those are the coils that I built. I'll go ahead and remove that. Guys, like I said, they're just for resonance. We're trying to figure out the whole Tesla thing with resonance, and you can see the coil set up behind me. We're going to get there, man. We're just going to resonate the number 2 coils on this. Now, I did resonate one at 63 inches, so let's see if we can't break that. And I did that with 13 volts, so I'm going to see if I can't break that, plus multiple ones. What kind of power do we get out of it? What kind of power do we pull next to it? Does it matter if one's lighting up a light bulb? Does it affect the one on the other side? Does it pull from the primary equally? Or does the primary even notice it's there? So all questions we got to figure out. That's why we do the test. It's going to be awesome. These things should be done printing here in the next day or so. And then I'll set up, run the test. I'll probably do inside one, just check it out. Then I'll probably pull them outside because I don't have room in here. And then we can see what it is. So we got to beat 63 inches on the resonating of the first one. And then we're off to go. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at some structured water, and we're also going to look at a couple of cool things with geometry. And let me just say, it's going to be completely awesome, because when you start noticing things and things start working in your favor and they all work together, it really changes how things seem in nature. So let me remove this, and then I'll bring up the other one. Okay, here we go. Found it. Sorry. Took me just a minute. There we go. First thing I want to show you guys is this right here is water. It's as simple as it is. When you get into water and you structure it or you put voltage into it, this is what you get. And this can just be hot voltage, guys. This is what you get. With positive and negative go into the water, you start to get structure. Now, I don't believe when they ran this test right here, they knew anything about the energy that I used for the one-wire energy of the Tesla coil. Or if they did, they didn't use it. So what we have here, like I said, is water that structures under the actual energy that's put into it. So let's take a look at the next slide, because it's going to get interesting why this is important. So we can see the structures and the bonds here. And they're breaking out. Again, the same shape breaks out of this. When they lock together, they bond just like this. So what's so interesting about this is what it starts to do after time when they start bonding like that. Okay, this right here is crystal structure. Now, for those of you that can already see it, you already know where I'm going. You already know that we have shape and detail taking place. We have bonds that connect to them in different places of the shape and detail, but the original detail stays the same. So this right here is the pattern of water when you put the energy into it. Again, when you structure water, it goes negative. It's fairly interesting, isn't it? Here's the structure of a crystal. Again, same pattern. There's a reason for this. All of it's going to tie together. This right here is DNA. I'll let you pick out the one you think it is, but I'm telling you, these structures all line up, and it's why you have in any coil-built system, you can get transmutation out of it. So there's several different, ones there. Doesn't that look familiar? As the structures of water bond together, they start to form a unique pattern. This is interesting. Now, I haven't put out the reason why they're doing it yet, but it's just interesting nonetheless to see what they're doing. And I think I know why. But let's go on. This is carbon right here. For anybody who understands the Russell scale, this should be no surprise that we should have the same geometry going on here. This is where it gets interesting. You can always say, hey, we're the first ones to invent this, right? We got all the technology in the world, and it must be us. It's got to be us, right? We have to know that this is us doing it, right? And then you see something like this, and it tells you flat out it wasn't you. It was someone else in the past who we all thought were primitives. Well, isn't that narrative being turned upside down at this point? When they show up with a structure like this and they carve it into the wall, maybe we just didn't look at it right. Are we looking for the right pattern when we see this? It's a fairly interesting question, but I think we can answer it today. Here's another one. Again, they put the writing next to it, and every time I see something like this, they explain all the writing. They have no idea what the pattern is. So why do they do it? Well, they must be trying to tell you something. To me, it's a science formula. Every time they put something down like this, it's a formula in science. We just don't understand the basis in order to read it. That's kind of what I'm hoping to change today. As you start to see things like this, I hope a pattern starts to grow in your head and you start to understand why I'm looking at all these things. You see, we're not going to be the first one to discover this. As a matter of fact, we're really late to the party. Here we go. A lot of people like to look at this. They go 369 structure. We're going to wind a coil based on this, and we're going to put it at certain degrees in geometry, and we're going to get what we want. But which structure are you going to wind? Well, see, and that's the interesting part. There's several structures there. You can wind in triangles, or you can wind triangles in order to form other shapes, or you can go on the pattern on the outside. You know, the number structure is going to change. So let's continue. Like I said, you can wind the triangle, and you can wind triangles like this. And this is what the majority of people see throughout the entire thing. They wind it in this structure, and they say, well, we wanted to wind in the triangles because we think we can pull off some kind of geometry based on that, maybe some Pythagorean theorem or something. But that's not quite what we're looking for. Here it is again, that same structure. Again, we have these patterns and numbers on the outside. They're winding to the patterns. They're obviously looking for something. But do we really know if this is right? And you can pretty much wind these things to any number structure on the outside as long as you keep the pattern. But there's a certain way to do this that's even better than this. So let's take a look again. Again, this is just two triangles. There's nothing particularly special about it. Again, people associating the triangle with the power. We even see this. We look at the frequency that it creates. And people think that it's producing these things here with the triangle. So let's do a little overlay work. We did this before. And I think this is really interesting to understand something in a system. So we can overlay the triangle. That's not a problem. The outside shape, not so much. Let's take a look. Now we understand what they were doing, but we still haven't gotten to why. You see, I don't think it's the triangle we were looking for. So let's go back to it again. This was the DNA. This is the triangle structure. Which part of the DNA matched? You see, there's no triangle structures in the DNA. It's a hexagon in the center. That's what matches. We're not winding to build triangles. We're winding to build a hexagon. You see, structure takes a certain pattern in everything. It doesn't mean that the triangles are useless. Far from it. They have their use. But what I'm trying to get across here is we're looking for particular structures that everything makes and show up in nature in every way. Here we are again. There's our structured water. And as we can see, the shape in the center is a hexagon. All the other windings change. We are looking for a main structure here. Crystal, we know the form. We know that it's hexagon. It comes out that way. So now that we know what we're looking for, is this structure built the right way? I don't know. It might be. It's interesting to look at it this way, that we can look at it that they were creating the same hexagon in the center, but were they also creating something else? You see, there's more to this than just that, but it's very, very important to understand what shapes are doing in this world. Again, different crystal structures form different patterns. You should start to look at this stuff. We understand what we're doing when we get into the water aspect. Here, I can wind this thing exactly to this pattern, get the same hexagon in the center, get the same triangle, but I also get an outside part. That'll become important here soon. Now, H3O2, structured water. Why is this important? You look at it and you go, well, those are all cubes. Well, yeah, they are. But there's more to it than that. You see, when they do this and they structure the water flows in like an artery. You'll see a top side and a bottom side, and they're both thick. And then on the inside, you'll get flowing water. So it should change things in how you see them. We're changing our understanding of this geometry in order to understand certain systems and how they lock us together. So there's obviously some stuff missing here. We see the hexagon in here. We understand it to be part of the structure. We didn't see it right away because we see the cubes. But now it starts to make sense. This right here. Now this isn't exactly the right structure. But now you understand what the rest of the triangle was that you created. You see, every time you create a triangle structure, you're creating frequency in every single one of the ends of it. Isn't that interesting? Based on where you have that structure and what the frequency is, you get a harmonic. Now, sound, frequency, harmonics, it's all laid into one, but it's all going to have the same patterns as we go along. Again, this isn't the proper structure for this, but I couldn't find the one in the hexagon form. But I wanted to make the point nonetheless. We are actually building this and understanding this different now, because now if we know the shape, we know which parts to put into it, whether it's triangle, square, or anything else. Now we can adjust it and find every frequency that goes into it. We can find the correct harmonic that goes into it. Now we're getting somewhere. This is why we wind coils. Again, this is the harmonic scale. Now, a lot of you have already said this. Why in the world would we want to know this? Well, bees have a very particular thing that they do. They all create this structure. If you studied Grebennikov, you would understand why this is important. This is going to be one of those things when you find it, you're going to start to look into anti-gravity. You see, it's not fringe. It all makes sense. It all comes together. Why in the world would they build these structures? Well, maybe because they can't fly without harmonics in their wings. Maybe they just like it. Or maybe it's putting off more energy than you think it is in a certain way, but we don't have the instruments to calculate it. Now that sounds interesting, but what other energy does that? Well, if you think about what this is starting to do, and you take our one-wire energy, well, what are we doing? We're putting it off on a radiant energy field that no one can figure out how to calculate what the measurement is. It's not high voltage. It's not potential. It's a radiant energy field. I'm going to say it's scalar field. It continuously goes. Now, how do we verify that? It's simple. We set up a second Tesla coil. We put a ball on each of them. And if it radiates 360 degrees and matches the other and can turn it on, we have scalar energy. So why is it so important for me to do my 5 coils again? Well, you see, when you start to put this thing together and you understand resonance properly, everything made in the same structure carries the same resonant value. Coils in the same structure and the same size carry the same resonant value. We are looking at something here that is a complete tie-in to what we're doing. Everybody says you got to have the honeycomb structure, but not everybody understands why. You see, it matches more, but it also matches the energy type that you have to put in to start to get some of these things. We are seriously starting to understand it now as something bigger. Now, this is not a hexagon, but what we understand from this is we get different shapes. Now, with the different shapes, we can start looking at this stuff again. This is an ancient carving right here. Wires in a setting, and they wound it. This isn't ours, guys. This is known a long, long time ago. We're just relearning it now. You can see multiple shapes inside of this thing, and there's a hole in the center. Isn't that ironic? And what is right there in the center? There's a hexagon shape right in the center. It's clear as day. It's looking right at you. We have to start to understand this. When they start to build mandalas, when they start carving this stuff into walls, we now need to know why. What was the frequency of each one of them? Why were they building that particular shape? What other parts did it tie into? Did it tie into DNA? Did it tie into the structure for the bees? Was there anti-gravity involved when they did it based on those things? Why were they structuring water? What's going on here? You see, I know right now we have a lot more questions than answers, but at least now we're looking in the correct direction. We're now starting to understand this. Hey, hold on. We're not doing this right. All these things keep showing up, but we're not looking at them. Well, maybe now after this, we'll all start to get at it and look at it and go, you know what? Maybe now we'll start to understand why. You see, this could be a big rabbit hole to jump into. But after you see somebody with a geometry coil and it starts working that way, you start to understand things. So that's all I had for this presentation in here. But I just wanted to show you guys that. So I'm going to stop screen sharing real quick, and I'm going to talk to you. So right now, guys, we're sitting in a situation where we're discovering negative energy. And what is it? Is it the negative on your DC? No. It's simply room temperature and below. Now, I did get a, what do they call it, thermal camera, and I did check it. So let me show you the video here because there's some interesting things that happen. And I think everybody should see it. So here we go. This is the first run of my thermal camera. And as you can see, we got heat on the power source here. I just turned on the Tesla coil. You can see the heat in the board itself. The capacitors aren't hot. It's just the normal things that get hot on there. But my rodent coil, when it's attached, it's on right there. The light's on. All right, so take a look at it right there. You can see my rodent coil. Now this is on. The light is on top of it. You can see the 4-foot light sitting on top of it. You can kind of see a field around it, but I don't know if that's the camera that I got or if it's an actual field. But you can definitely see the rodent coil. But guys, it's not hot at all. Not one bit. And But by all means, there's 13 volts going in there, but it's not hot. So we're looking at something when I say cold energy, all I simply mean, or negative energy, room temperature and below. Right now, that coil is going below room temperature.
There's no heat coming from it. It's actively no heat. You can see the heat there like a barely.
You can see all the hot voltage in there. You know what's crazy about this is you see my Tesla coil right there. It's not really hot. You see the wires going to it. They have a little bit of heat. My Tesla coil is not really hot, guys. Not at all. And it's putting off that cold voltage. That's how I know what's going on. I knew it before we even got to this point. So let's take a look a little bit further into it.
Oscillation right there. You can see the windings of the number one coil weren't hot at all. And that rodent coil is not hot. Not one bit. My hand is. Sorry, that's a bad shot. Right there, you can see it. Yeah, still not a lot of heat in there. Now, the cool thing is you can see the rod going right down the center. It is bright.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Take a look at the rod going down the center of my Tesla coil. It's brass. But you can see it clear as day going right down the center of my Tesla coil. It's right in front of you. And it's showing cold. It's not showing hot at all. But it shows up clear as day.
Brass, by the way. You can see the color of brass right there. That's interesting. And as you go down, you can start to see the rod going right down the center of it. Well, this is the first time I run this thing, so I'll get better at it and try to do side by side with regular footage to make it easier.
Anyway, I wanted to show you that. That was pretty cool. That's thermal camera on that. Guys, that Tesla coil is cold. There's not a lot of heat into it. It's oscillating correctly. So it's pushing the energy through it like it's supposed to perfectly. There's no heat buildup, nothing. Those little cheap wires on there, the only heat that you see, and then you start seeing it in the actual boards and stuff themselves. You don't find it in that rodent coil. That rodent coil is cold. As soon as I hooked it to there between the rod going down the center and the rodent coil, it's cold. And one thing in one of my tests that I did, and how do I say this? When I pulled the wire out of the center, so I had a wire in there in the beginning, I pulled it out, and the rodent coil stayed on. And it didn't go off until the center of the coil matched the temperature in the room. Now think about that for a minute. That sounds odd, doesn't it? You're dealing with energy. It should just go off as soon as you pull the plug, right? I mean, that's the way high voltage works, isn't it? Well, then start to think about it this way. I'm telling you it's negative voltage, and I'm telling you it's cold. So why would I associate those things together? Well, let's think about that for a second. If I'm noticing in the test that I keep the rodent coil stays on, when I pull the wire right out of my Tesla coil and I put it right in front of the camera and I show you and I go, well, it still has residual energy. And then I tell you it's because the inside is colder than the outside. And then when it warms back up to room temperature, power goes off. It's an interesting phenomena, but it's why I call it cold energy or negative energy or intertwine the two. It's the same thing. Room temperature and below. That's why I describe it that way. So let me see if I can't find that video for you, because it's just interesting to see the whole thing come together. And if you're doing all the tests or if you're watching all the tests like most of you do, you're going to start noticing this stuff and you'll be like, well, there's definitely something going on there, but it's pretty important why it does it. Let me see. Apparently it's a bit far back, so just give me a second. But I have my Slayer Stider circuit connected to it. Power supply. Got a light on in the background. So as we can see, I'm just running my Slayer Exciter in this circuit. My rodent coil out here. Now, there's nothing on it, nothing connected to it. And then we'll back it up a little bit. I had somebody ask me this question, so I want to make sure I address it. But I have my Slayer. That right there is my Slayer Exciter circuit, guys. 40 volts all day long. That's all I'm going to run in this test. And it puts out a ton of energy. So Slayer Exciter, ZVS, and all, you know, pick the one you want. This one works great. Circuit connected to it. Power supply. Got a light on in the background. I have my rodent coil out here. Now, there's nothing on it, nothing connected to it other than a simple wire. So let's look at the connection. You can see the light bulb above it. I'm just connected to one wire of the rodent coil. See, it goes onto the white wire. The white wire is laying on the ground. I'm going to put it down the center of my Tesla coil. So let me set up the camera here. And what I'm going to look for is I want the light to turn on when I put the wire down the Tesla coil at about 13 volts. That's cool, isn't it? Let's do it again. We'll put the wire down the Tesla coil. Lights up pretty bright, guys. There is no direct connection to this Tesla coil. The wire's just down the center of it. So there you go. You can see the light. There's the wire. I just got it hanging down the center. That's it. Bright as can be. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So let me give it a little more juice. Let me see what I can get out of this. So 24 volts now. It still lights up. Matter of fact, it's probably lighting up worse. Oh, there we go. Now it's doing good. But we still haven't hit the other ones behind it. There's light bulbs. They haven't lit up. Let's take a look at this. What happens to this right here? Sorry, I'm getting over the wire right there. Now you can see it really cooking, right? Watch. Hit the side. You got it right there. Is that not cool or what? All right. I know it's just me goofing around playing with this. Let's give it a little more voltage. And let's go ahead and see if we can't get any more light to light. We're going to go up to 30. With 30 volts now. No, light's the same. Here is what we're getting when we put it down the Tesla coil now. We're starting to get a little more breakout. You could see it right there. Again, that is not connected to anything. It's just a wire inside my Tesla coil. And we're getting arcing. We're getting a secondary right there. God, I torture this stuff. Okay. Our light is still on, by the way. There's our wire. There's the end of it. And our light bulb is still on. So that tells you something right there. We're dealing with some resonance in here, okay? Now, I don't know how much distance I need, so let me... Oh, my God. Sorry, guys. That's just hilarious. Like, I knew it was coming, but I don't know that everybody else did. The wire not even in there. It was sitting right in front of the camera. Like, I just showed you, hey, it doesn't need it when it changes the temperature of the coil. That's what it is. That's why the temperature in this stuff is so important. So can you get it to be super conductive? Yeah, you can. You have to drop it quite a bit of degrees, though. And it's not the temperature in the room. So if you say, can we just blow something down the center and make it colder? No, it doesn't work that way. You see, you're changing the temperature in the room at that point. That's not what you want. You want to keep the temperature room and force the coil to do the work to make it colder. And why? Because it's not necessarily the temperature. So this is what you got to understand. Let me remove this for 1 second because I want to show you the flat coil as well. But here's what you got to understand. There's energy in this coil. It's a representation of what we're looking for in a vortex. It literally goes like this. So as it's coming in at an angle, it's going down. It is the 100% representation of what we're looking for. What are we missing? We're missing the one that goes like this. Now, just understand this in this vortex that it is creating. As it comes to the center, and it does this all the way around, it's pulling in everything from the outside into it. So everything in the energy in the room is being pulled right back down to that center point. If we had the ones that went like this, it'd be even more dramatic. But we don't have those on this one yet. It is in the Rodin coil that we can go like this. So you're starting to see the effect. Now, again, it's not the temperature in the room necessarily. It's how the energy is flowing to it. You see, it's getting colder because we're starting to tap for a 0 point. We're looking for it. We're starting to put in the hooks to claw it open and find it. Well, how do you do that? You see, it drops the temperature as an effect, but it's not the cause. So putting cold air down it wouldn't do you any good because it's not the cause. It's an effect. We are building something more by learning every feature of this. So people have asked, have I used a pancake coil to do this? Well, yeah, I have. So let's see if I can pull that video for you real quick. And we'll just do the same thing with our pancake coil, or the bifilar coil, as people like to call it. Give me a second to flip this around real quick. Asked to see if I couldn't find resonance in my bifilar coil. There it is right there. I got a 12-inch bifilar coil, and I only have it connected to one side, and that goes to this white wire. This white wire, as you can see, is just right there. It's hanging off. I'm going to move this over to my Tesla coil. Sorry, I'm getting tangled in the wire. Now, all I'm going to do is turn this on. Move this light over here. Get set up. And then I'm going to put the wire down the Tesla coil. Right now, about 17 volts. As we can see, the Tesla coil is running. Light's not on. Here's our wire. Place it down the Tesla coil. And there we go. Okay. So now, remove the wire. Still has resonance in it. It's dying off. You can see it getting smaller. Yeah, there we go again. We'll do it again. Wires down the Tesla coil. Lights on. Wires out of the Tesla coil. Light's still on. It's going down. The winding is exactly the same inside and out on that bifilar coil. It's no different than the Rodin coil. Now it goes out. Okay. So hold on, I just want to address something. You guys are talking about a bifilar coil and pancake coil being different. The way I learned it, okay, was from Master Evo that was a bifilar coil. Now, if you have a different representation of a bifilar coil, by all means, let me know what it is. I will build it. And it wouldn't be a problem at all. I'm sure it'll do the same thing. Because it has nothing to do really, how do I say this? The shape plays a part in this part, but since we're forcing the energy in, we're not creating the energy out of the shape. It's a bit different. So each coil is different when it goes through this process, but the process is happening because of the type of energy we're building. So you guys are talking about a jewel thief. You're just talking about a choke is all you want to do. I mean, I could do one of those. That would be fairly easy. Anyway, what I'm trying to say to you is this energy is special. So when we understand this, like I said, it restructures water. Now, that doesn't seem important, but why would it be important? Well, if it's restructuring the water, is it restructuring the air? I mean, think about it for a second. If I told you it's radiant energy, and I tell you it's going out without limitations on the energy, and it's pushing out, right? And it's not doing it based on the regular energy that we have on a regular Tesla coil. Am I starting to restructure the air around it? We restructure the water. Everybody can understand that. We structure the water and it starts to pull together. But what if it's really restructuring the oxygen itself? What if it's pulling it together and making patterns? You see, that's what gets me. When we start talking about scalar and understanding it, scalar works in a very simple way. You have different levels, and each level there is a different frequency. But for every frequency, there's a difference in temperature. So it's starting to make sense why they go together. You say scalar, structure. We just have to understand it. Cold energy. This is the same energy that we're putting into my GraviFlyer. Why would it work this way? This is the same energy Hutchinson's using to get anti-gravity. He's still using the crystal form when he does it. The piezoelectric buzzer still amplifies this to double the amount of energy. And as soon as you put it in an ultrasound machine and match that to it, it'll amplify all day. There's more here than what you think there is. We're doing something else. Now, let me tell you another little insight about my GraviFlyer that you probably don't understand. It puts out fields. It's fields of energy. You see, I think it structures the air because the field that it puts around this holds in anything else that the DC flyback, when it's on those two discs, the top and bottom, it holds that energy in. But when I switch it and I put my Tesla coil to the top and bottom disc, and then I put the high voltage to the center plate and the rods out the side, it then throws it out. there's an absolute structuring of the air going on there in order to hold in a field or push out a field. It's not just a normal field, guys. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a structured pattern that's changing things. So how does it change it in water? Again, it forms two barriers, and in the center, it flows. It's just like an artery. That's why it's important. We're looking for structures to build outside of the field for anti-gravity. Without it, you can't break gravity. But we also need to understand why it's scalar. The temperature, the frequency. Now you start to understand, why would we build a coil to match that? Well, because it's the smartest thing you can do. Obviously, if it's doing all those things, if it's automatically putting in the correct frequency, it's already putting in the right octave, it's already putting in the energy you want, it's creating the vortex that you're looking for, and we know that we can put a piezo disc right on top of it and amplify the living daylights out of it. Hello, Jesus, here we come. We are finding the right answer. It's about time. So that's the right thing to do here. This is why we go through it and understand this. So what I mean scalar is just putting out massive amounts of energy, and every time I look it up and have the experts explain it, they explain it the exact same way I just explained it. I can give you a video if you'd like, Jarvis, and show it to you. But look, so what is the main thing with scalar do? And they say, well, it goes directly from one end to the other, and it's not staying in the same field that a normal Tesla coil does. Well, hello. I can tell you that all day long when I light up a burrito. I mean, that's how ridiculous it is, guys. This thing is pure energy. Yeah, the only thing it does not like is oil. That's it. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is part of it. So how do I want to say this? We're looking at everything probably the wrong way. So let me explain the rest of this. When we want to look at the rest of the crystal structures, each one has a pattern. Each one has a frequency. Every single one of them. So why not build a coil that matches all of them? What can we get out of it? You see, there's more here than what you think there is. You see, it's not as simple as just saying we can build one and be done. I don't think that's the case at all. You see, each one represents different things that they do, and each one will interact with each crystal differently. And as we know, there's plenty of crystal structures around this whole planet that are different. So we're going to have to wind coils that match that. We're going to have to show the frequency that it matches. You see, now we're getting in the right direction where we can start taking advantage of that. All the time I look at all these videos and they make that small breakthrough in one area and they're not connecting it because they don't know that they connect. But when I can put this energy into the water and it has quartz in it and it's amplifying that quartz in order to light up everything in my front yard, okay, then you know you have it right. Now you're starting to see the other things go on. You go, okay, you're creating a field in this gravity flyer. Oh my. Okay, now we have something that holds it in. Now, one of the hardest things to do is to hold in another type of energy, whether it be DC hot voltage on there, whether you want to say it turned into static electricity. Either way, it holds it in. That's the point. It's a structure. It's restructuring the air itself. Now you have a field bubble. Now we can start to begin to understand this the right way. We put in enough to put in the field bubble. What does it do? It forces all other frequencies and energy types out based on the Casimir effect. It's a double Casimir effect if you think about it. The rod down the center creates a Casimir effect. Then onto a plate, it creates a Casimir effect again. It's not that hard. We all just look at it as a capacitor. We all forget about the saturation in the center plate. Now, and we look at it as aluminum. What happens when you put high voltage on aluminum and you put two plates together? Well, you get a laser. But what if we didn't get the laser? What if we stopped short of the laser? Well, hello, negative energy. Here you come. My plate on my gravity flyer gets colder. And it still burns because it has a ton of RF in it. Now, we know it's getting colder, so we know we have the effect going on. When I rotate my top disc, the energy flows this way. I put high voltage in that sucker at 20K, and it still flowed this way. My bottom disc flowed this way in energy. It would literally go around it and go right to the center. Every time it did it, right to the center. It was telling you it's creating a vortex on both sides. Now with the center cold, now we can start to understand the correlation. We looked at the two coils. We looked at the rodent coil and the pancake coil. We both saw them both. They're both pulling that energy in and holding it. So what's the difference between Hutchinson and what Alexei did? How come Alexei can lift it so fast? And why is it Hutchinson was taking sometimes days to lift things? And it comes down to how you saturate something. You see, in this energy, when you connect it to a light bulb, it doesn't fully turn it on. It puts energy into it. But if you want to fully turn it on, you got to hook that light bulb to the ground. And when you hook it to the ground, the energy amplifies in the light bulb. Now, how am I going to saturate a simple disc and some rods? Well, that's simple. I'm going to ground it and saturate the living daylights out of it because it'll work faster. You see, I don't think Hutchinson knew that. I think Alexei did. And I think that was a thing in between both of them. You can saturate this field all day long. Hutchinson put a bipolar Tesla coil above it and below it. Well, yeah. What does that represent? You need a hot zone, don't you? You need a pull on this energy to pull it through. So if you put something on top and bottom that resonates hot energy, well, you're pulling that center field out. It literally takes it from the center and pulls it open. It's literally pulling it open. The top and bottom disc spinning pulls it out. Now it creates a bubble right in that area. Looks like a football. Alexei showed it. He showed it right on the gravity flyer. It did exactly that. Hutchinson used the same thing. When you see him turning dials and stuff in order to clear out a lake, you know that he's just trying to get the frequency of it. He's got a wire dropped right in there in that cold energy. He's got that same wire down that Tesla coil dropped in that water. He's trying to use the frequency of it to restructure the water in order to take out the impurities. That's as simple as it gets. You know, it's a different type of energy that we're dealing with here. And because we don't build it a lot, we don't recognize it. It's not like we turn on our Tesla coil and recognize the outside field. I mean, kind of, that's what we're trying to figure out with all of this stuff with Tesla. He knew way, way more than the rest of us. He knew how this energy worked. Don't ever fool yourself. He knew exactly how it worked. He also knew exactly how to create your dipole. You see, if I put these things in a configuration of a 5 dice or a 5 die, then guess what? I made a dipole in one direction. That's it. Right in the center. Put your main starting one. Put the other ones on the outside. Yeah, it's about what it's going to do. Now, depending on how you connect your secondaries, you get different effects. It's just grounding. Shouldn't do it that way, but it does because we're creating geometry with it. So now I'm going to get a little bit different out of it. So, like I said, we'll do the tests on it. That's 5 coils. We'll start out small, one test, next test, and the next test. Guys, I can already prove the fields are outside that gravity flyer. That's easy. I've already done it. It's on my channel. I can already prove that we can go 63 inches with just a ground wire connected on a number 2 coil. That's not hard. I did it. It's not hard to see the temperature difference. We've already proved that. You've seen the video. We're restructuring the water so it resonates with the piezoelectric disc. We're also restructuring the water to affect the quartz inside the sand. When I take a plastic tub, and I go out in my front yard and I create a bunch of lights. Here, I'll just show it to you. We got everything to light on this based on that easy thing. If you understand what I'm trying to do, it'll make a lot of sense. So let me share that video here for you. All that is a plastic tub, sand, and water. And I'm running the wire right down the center of my Tesla coil and putting it into it. That's as simple as it gets. Don't have any other wires attached to it, nothing. It just dropped the wire. Seriously, I connected one little clamp to the end there, and then I just dropped it in the water. And as you can see, it just works. This energy is different. Yeah, there's a ton of it there too. So, yeah, it all falls into line with what we're trying to do here. So when we say we want to take that energy out of the Tesla coil that way, and well, now it should make sense. When I want to get the 5 Tesla coils going, sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. When I get the 5 going, why is it working at 63 inches at 13 volts? Now, if you built the Tesla coil and you put 13 volts into it, what's the max field you get out of your best driver? 3 feet? That's about what I got. Like perfect resonance, 3 feet. That's it. Doesn't go out any further. There is no light beyond 3 feet. Nothing. So if I take something and put it at 63 inches, and all I have is a ground wire connected to a number 2, shouldn't turn on at all. Well, that's the beauty of Tesla and resonance, isn't it? The exact same resonance frequency or close to it matches it, just like an AM radio. You get close, you get the station. You hit it dead on, you get all the energy. Well, that's how this is working, guys. I know I could do it. I just want to prove out the theory so everybody else can see it's done. I'll show you another video here of it. And we'll just take a look at it. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'll have it right for you. That's not it. Sorry about that. I'll get rid of some of these screens. Here we are. This is the one I want. Completely. So now when we look back on it, that big distance there. So let me grab my tape measure and I'll just tell you what the distance is. So from coil to coil, it's 63 inches. Now, I'm going to run this at 13.7 volts. I'm just going to turn it on. My resonance value went up. That was a good thing. Turn right back on. Let me verify by turning off the lights. Oh, it's on. Coil on the right's activated, and I connected it directly to the number 2 winding to go right here to this piece right here, and it's changing the value of this coil. Now, here's the current value. $249. Now, here's the crazy thing. Here's this one right here. This Tesla coil is right next to it. You would think regardless, this lights up this light, right? Well, why isn't that light lit? And then why is this one lit? I think honestly what's going on here, and I don't think it's full resonance yet. I think it's sympathetic resonance. I have this coil right here resonating, and it's finding the resonance value of this coil. So let's turn off the lights, and we're going to see it a little better. And then I'll show you the exact reason why I think it's doing it. So you see that. Now, here was the whole thing. My primary on that second coil wasn't connected to anything. My secondary was connected to ground. Or it was my... Either way, it was only one wire connected to ground. There is no connection whatsoever to that coil with any hot power. That's the point here, isn't it? You see, all these tests prove out a theory, and we're learning about pure resonance now. They always say, well, if the resonance value in your transformer outside was the resonance value in the motor that you're running, you get a lot more energy. You also get a runaway. I'm curious to see if I get a runaway. I will have my sledgehammer ready if I do. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's going to come to that. I'll get it right there, right on it. And every one of these coils is built the same on the 5 that I built. I'll check all the values and write them down. We'll do the test. And when I do the test, I'll reveal all the values of them. My goal is to put it in a very, very close sympathetic resonance or pure resonance, depending on how they go. So you can change any value of any one of them by adding just a little bit more wire or removing it. And I could do that, but I want to run the test first and then change them. And the reason I want to do that is in case one of them starts to run away. Obviously, you don't want to put them all in that because then you create an enormous field that you don't want. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that, guys. We're going to go ahead and do that. I wanted to share the information that we put out there today. I think it's very important that we get into the structure of things and how they work and how they're going to work in the future and why we're doing them. So with that, I'm going to take some chat questions and stuff like that, man, because that's all the material I had. I was hoping the other guys would show up, but I haven't seen them yet. So Gives a resonant sign AC. You know, I'm just going by how the actual energy is working. Because I don't think it's picking it up correctly. What's going on, man? Air has limitations. Yes, it does. The ground is much easier to get energy to pass through, by the way, if you know what you're doing. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Would you be willing to tell us your thoughts on diodes for winding techniques? Well, not yet. I'll just say it that way. I'm not ready to reveal that yet. I'm going to finish out what I'm doing with these coils before I get into that. And hopefully you can understand that it's kind of a game changer giveaway, and I don't want to give that one out yet. Not until I build the coil and do it that way. But I think there's a way to stack these scalar fields. So if we put it out that's what they are, and we can understand them that way, regardless of what your probes or anything else say. If it's acting that way, that's the way I'm going to treat it. If I could build the next thing up at a different frequency and this winding at a different frequency and start to build them at different frequencies, then will it amplify all of them or give me every single field when I put in a piece of soft iron with wire around it? Will I get multiple different fields because they're different frequencies in order to amplify that? You see, that's why I don't want to answer that question yet. Because I think this energy builds that way. I have tried it a bunch of different ways. You cannot multiply this when you go and put it on the one Tesla coil. But if I put 5 different Tesla coils together, and I build each field, and each one's at a different resonance frequency, and you saw me just adding copper to the other one, that's all it's going to take. I can change the frequency of each one of them, but I build in each layer. Guess what? If it does give me a different energy, I don't want to call it a different energy. It's for every frequency I get an energy level. So if I have multiple different frequencies and different levels, I can multiply this. And I can see exactly why winding coils in different patterns would give me the energy that you want to get. Give me what Gerald has. I'm doing it with a Tesla coil. I'm trying not to wind anything. That's his thing, and I'll let him explain it. But I'm trying to figure out if it could be done with a Tesla coil. I want multiple scalar fields. Can I have it? That's a question. Can I amplify the living daylights out of it does? See, that's kind of the proving test, isn't it? If I can get different frequencies in each field, and then each frequency that puts off the field, I can get energy into that iron core with the winding, then I found it. I don't need a diode on the outside at that point. I just need to know exactly how to build this right. That's as simple as it is. I mean, a lot of these things sound crazy, guys. When I first started, I always bring up the burrito, but it's hilarious. Who thinks you can put your energy into a burrito and light up lights like 3 feet away from it? Nobody. How do you use burritos when you go like in a run? It seems like impossible energy, guys, and that's really what it feels like. So we're just going to have to map it out. And I don't think in any way that we're going to map it out by the probes and all the stuff that we normally do to other energy. I don't think it's found that way. I just don't. We don't have the right meters to pick it up. Alexi did build a meter that picked up both fields, and I have that. And yes, it does go off. It does show both of them going off. So it's pretty interesting how it's working. And that's with my burrito, by the way. I can get that little meter to go off. So if you're out there trying this, man, by all means, if you have a device like that, try it. That little meter he made, it's pretty important. So yeah, that was that. Like I said, I just don't want to give out that winding secret yet. That's kind of like a only Once you learn it, man, it's game over for everything. And I just want to make sure I verify that it works properly before I give it out. That's it. Once I do that, you guys can have it. Isn't brass better for high voltage energy? Brass is better for this energy, that's for sure. I've used aluminum. Very bad idea. Don't use aluminum. Side effects go on with aluminum. I do have a solid brass rod that I use. That's fine. It takes longer to saturate than the one I have. So remember, as you're putting this in there, there's a saturation rate. So if you put in a big heavy rod in one of these, you may get it to work, right? But it's going to take all day to saturate it. You're going to lose all the energy. It becomes completely useless. Completely useless. I use a 1/4 inch hollow brass rod that I put down the center. That's the favorite one I use. Now, there's 2 reasons why I use it. One, it's brass. Brass works better. Tesla figured it out, and that's what he used. I don't know exactly why. I'm not an expert in metals like that. I just know it works. Second reason is when you want to take your piezo and put it through there with an ultrasound machine, you put it in with the negative going down that rod, and then it'll break the negative when you push the ultrasound button and amplify your Tesla coil. That's why you do it. So there's 2 reasons to do it. Both, I've shown the piezoelectric thing on the channel. I've seen some people that are moving things with piezo discs, and they're starting to get motion out of it. What I would say to them, take a Tesla coil, put a rod down the center, and attach it to a very, very small winding. And when you do that, you'll have something to amplify from that should give you more thrust. That's the way I would build it anyway. Solid 1/8 inch brass rod that works the best. I have an 1/8 inch brass rod and I have used it. I still prefer the hollow one, but yes, I do have one of those and it does work good. And by the way, those short stacks, that's like impossible power, isn't it? Like if you saw what Ian's talking about, they're about, what, this long, Ian? They look like the size of a capacitor, maybe a big blue one you'd get. But like this big around, something like that. And they're built like an AC flyback. So windings, level of plastic, windings again, level of plastic, windings again. That's got to be a monster put out when you put it in AC. So, yeah, that's a different animal altogether. I haven't built one of Sean's coils yet, except for the one we built together. And that was the one I built, and see it right behind me. We perfected the values on it to run the ZVS so that it runs all the time. And, man, does it work perfect. 3.5 inches long, 1.75 inches wide. Crazy powerful, yes. You guys, what is it? 5,200 winds at 32 gauge. You know, I bought 5 pounds of 32 gauge. I might just give that one a try. But I want to build his round one first. Let's see. Brass is non-ferromagnetic, but heat and electrically conductive. Maybe that's why he used it. You probably don't want it to be ferromagnetic. Maybe that's the best part of it, huh? Maybe there's a tie-in there that I haven't seen yet. I'll have to look into that. Graphene? Is graphene conductive? I always thought it was a structure builder. But I guess if it would have the same shape, we could try it. I know that carbon does. So I'm interested to try that. It's probably why people wanted me to try burnt wood. There's a structure inside the carbon itself. Interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. Yes, I will. Very conductive. All right. Graphene is very conductive. Well, then we'll have to try it. What do you have to do? Just burn it and make it? Put it in some kind of thing, get really super hot. We'll have to try that. Oh. Loves that stuff, yeah. Cheat code? Oh, I hope that's what it's saying, because cathode, I don't know what that is. Cathode? Sorry. I must not be able to read today. I'm sorry. Cathode. It's very conductive. More metal on the P's periodic table. Yes. Nice. Give me a second. Let me refresh this. Graphene is a bit pricey. I seen the guy make it, actually. And it seems like an interesting process. Kind of like you would in a volcano or something like that. You just make some stuff like that. That's probably why ash structures so well coming from there. But I've seen a guy make it. I'm going to go ahead and when I'm done with all of my 50 million projects on my plate, I might be able to make that. Let's see. Flash graphene. I don't know what that is. You'll have to show me one day. Nanotubes. Well, I would like to get crystal tubes and resonate them at the same frequency. That would be cool. Let's see. Fundamental harmonics of wire lengths and spaces of those internal multiple arcs. Well, I think that's interesting, but internal multiple arcs, that's interesting. The internal arcs. You see, I don't want to put off any ozone in the air. That's kind of defeats the point. It's wasted energy. I just want to put out the pure energy field that it comes with. So, not sure that that's what you meant, but okay. Should make your own flash graphene. You'll love the process. Something tells me I may not, but try it and find out. Yeah, I'll probably love that. That's for sure, Ian. Always like to fry things. You know, it didn't seem that way when I started out. I wanted everything to work perfectly. And then I found out I had a knack for breaking things, and then everything blows up. It's kind of like having the brown thumb instead of the green one. You just fail everywhere, and then out of the blue, you automatically succeed to this higher level, and you're like, wow, how'd that happen? You know what I mean? It's just unfortunate coincidence, I guess. Maybe I push it too hard. I guess if I just built the Tesla coil and turned it on and was happy, I guess I wouldn't break so many things. But, man, I force these things to do horrible things. You know what I mean? Fields of energy, all kinds of different voltages. You know what I mean? Sticking the rod in the center of it, man. I torture these Tesla coils. I probably shouldn't be surprised that I break a lot of them. Robert Murray Smith, that sounds familiar. Many lessons there. I saw a guy who did magnets, and he was using these big, gigantic magnets like this. They were monsters. And then he was wrapping them in wire because the iron itself would hold the field in, so you can get a higher Tesla in the center of the big magnets. So I think it's that same guy. I could be wrong, but it could be. That guy was smart, man. He was really on another level. Let's see. Brushes are graphite-less. Brushes are graphite. Sorry. Wow, I can't read today. Good hard old wood. Yeah, we could try some of that. I used my hot energy once, and probably like all of you, I took some wood and put the anode and cathode in it and built a cool pattern that comes out in it with all the water that's in it. That's pretty cool. That hot voltage, man, it's hard on your hand. I got a little arthritis when I use it. I don't like it. I was using it a lot, and then my hand started to stiffen. I stopped using it. I don't have the same thing with the cold energy or negative energy, however you want to call it. They're free and clean, no arthritis whatsoever when you use that stuff. So, big difference. Sounds so wrong. Yeah, probably does. I probably goofed up on how to say it. Okay. You have the recipe somewhere, make it all the time. Wow, you guys are really into that stuff. I know it hit the internet big a little while back. Let's see. The neat thing is the crystalline electrolyte will. Man, I'm just not going to try to read it. You guys see it. You know, I think there's a lot of this stuff, guys, that comes in together and really responds well together. We just don't know it yet. Well, you saw the structure of carbon, didn't you? We had a hexagon. So if graphene's just a more powerful version or it changed the structure just a little bit to hold it together better, is it still that same structure? It would make sense if it was. Oh, let's see. Robert Murray Smith showed the fractal capacitor transformer. That could be why I knew who he was. Yeah, respect everyone. You guys are way smarter than I am in the chat, that's for sure. I'm just an old guy in my garage putting coils together and doing projects. But, yeah, I'm learning. Sorry, some days, man, I can't read. I won't lie to you. Oh. It's a band Roden. Really? That's interesting. 2 channels. Okay. Did a lot of work on a new battery tech as well. Interesting. Like field stacking. That's exactly what we're going to do, man. Yeah, so guys, in doing this stuff, I'm trying to get to a specific goal here. So I wanted to find out exactly what Tesla knew. And I think he knew anti-gravity. I think a lot of you out there think probably the same way, that he did anti-gravity. We know that he passed it on to Carr. Whatever he knew, he passed it on to Carr because Carr did it. And if you look through Carr's work on the device they always show, it shows traces all up and down of how that cold energy works and negative energy, however you want to call it. It shows how it works and how you can transform it back and forth to the other. It seems the capacitor is the trick, along with if you switch it from AC to DC with a full bridge rectifier, though in this energy, I haven't found a lot that likes to work with other components. So I know that there's some crystalline structure. When you put gold underneath it, you could do it. There's people talking about that. That could be it. And if it does, that's awesome because that's totally Egyptian and I'd be into that. But I did this because my Gravifier, the guy who built it, put the wire right down the center of it. And I go, well, nobody understands why it's working. So let me just build it out. And I did, and showing you guys exactly what it is. This work isn't mine. This is Tesla's. There's no patenting anything. So we just put it out there. But I think it's interesting of what it's doing. And there was a whole lot more to this whole thing than we ever thought there was. Now we can go to multiply it. Can it be friend energy then? See, I don't think there's a correlation with the one-wire energy past 1-to-1 in any multiplication of it. You're going to have to build, second, third windings on it for a number 1 coil They'll have to be the same size so they can be put in resonance. That whole thing is all Don Smith. That's what Don Smith did. That's exactly how he got it to work. You know, that's fine, but I think we can multiply it first. And if we can understand how you take a geometry coil and make that amplify, then we can know how this amplifies. Because all the windings, guys, are different in there as far as the actual winding that you're doing. So each one's a different pattern. So each one has a different frequency. Each one has a different octave. If you think about it that way, then a geometry coil stacks it all day long. So you're going to get a massive output. You see, in the Tesla coil, we don't build them like geometry coils. We build them in round cylinders. So it's not going to work exactly the same. We're not getting multiple frequencies out of it. So if we can prove out multiple coils can create multiple levels of frequency, we 100% have scalar. There's no getting around it at that point. The fact that it works with the temperature the way it does. I mean, think about it. If you have one frequency going into your rodent coil, but then you change the frequency and the energy stays, why is it? Because it's in a different frequency, which means a different temperature. Now, think about that for a second. If I told you the scalar field was this frequency for this temperature, then I drop the temperature on you, what happens? Well, see, that's the thing here. That's exactly what we're dealing with. That's why I keep saying it's scalar, because it's working in the same way. You're not allowing the two to be matched up now. Now this one's fighting to match it. It's starting to fight to match it. You get my drift? We're creating a vortex by doing it. That's why it's working this way. Now, there's a lot of other ways to create a vortex. Flow of energy is very important, guys. I always talked about the flow of energy and stuff, and it's massively important. It's one of the reasons we do this. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be doing it. But yeah, we can do a lot of cool stuff with this, and that's kind of my goal. I'm going to prove out everything Tesla did. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to keep working on my Gravity Flyer. I'm going to prove that thing out. And then once I get, close to both of those things done, I may start doing every single rodent coil test. Then I'll take every pancake coil test. Then I'll start working on the geometry coil. You never know by the time I'm done, man. I'm going to try everything out there, but I'm going to make sure I go and look under every mat, try to find every rock there is, if you understand what I mean, and see exactly where every secret is, because I don't like not knowing, and I don't like to get there where nobody else knows either. So it's time for us to come into a new understanding of this, guys, and we're going to get it all going. With that said, guys, everybody else didn't show up with me today, unfortunately, so that's all I got for you. So I'm going to take off for the day, and hopefully everybody here will have a great night. And you guys have been awesome in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't put up a lot of your stuff today. It's kind of running slow, though. I wasn't able to read and say everything at the same time. But, yeah. Have a great night, guys, and thank you very much for everything. By the way, just a note on the way out. Guys, we have emojis on the channel. So anytime you want to become a member, you could do so and get all the emojis. I'll go in there right now, and I'll throw in a couple for you. So they're really cool, man. It makes the chat fun. And I hope you enjoy it. Guys, for the guys who are signed up as a member, I want to say thank you. I dropped some footage in there for the thermal camera, and I ran a first run on it today. All that video is in there. I'm going to be dropping some more stuff in there pretty soon. I do have an article from Tesla that has to do with cold energy as well and the effects on the body. So I'll put it in there so you can read it. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, and have a great day.